19th of October 2023. This is one of those let's talk Skidmarks of mine, and I've got quite a few things that I need to get off my chest. The fact of the matter is, the world, the Western world, is in chaos, and South Africa is basically sitting on the divide between the West and the so-called global South. What we are seeing currently happening there in Israel needs to make us all very, very worried. The Ukraine fiasco was the prelude, I think. The reality is that the Western Empire is crumbling. The thing is falling apart. And yes, you're going to differ from me, I don't care. Fact of the matter is, one of the big signs of an empire that collapses is moral decay. And if you look at what's happening in the West, morality has left the room. And the sad part is that the citizens are sitting idly watching that cabal that got control over their lives. And that is America, Canada and Europe, plus Australia and New Zealand. The people in charge is immoral, and they have zero respect for their traditional values. Zero. But it seems to me that the ordinary citizens in Europe, let's call it the West, has gone punch drunk. They're just taking the shots. But they don't realize that that evil cabal is planning their demise. You must understand, this Triple X that I always talk about, they had a few thousand people. A small gang of cretins that has managed to get control over everything. Schwab brags openly that he's got all the governments under his control. Look at what happened in Britain. They are a fully fledged WEF colony, complete with a WEF governor, and they are pumping Britain full of WEF soldiers. But the British people just look at it and they tweet and meme about it. Now, in Ukraine, I've asked many times, where are the diplomats? Where are the diplomats? Nobody from the West talks peace. Nobody. So, you have to ask you why. For me, the simple answer is, the quick answer is, they have made it very clear that depopulation is number one on their agenda, and control. That is what they are doing to Ukraine. They're busy with genocide in the Ukraine. They know they can't win the Russian army. They know it. But their puppet Zelensky is feeding the Ukrainians into the meat grinder, without blinking an eye. Now the West is out of weapons and out of ammunition and out of money for the Ukraine. But, sort of as a parting gift, that evil Americans delivered a lot of long-range missiles to Zelensky, and he was like a puppy that you feed boerewors, and he used them immediately, and he comes out and he brags about it. Putin said yesterday that the delivery of the ATACMS to Ukraine is a sinister and ironic move of desperation. The West knows it's over in the Ukraine, but they want more people. Then you look at what's happening in Israel. Now, the Americans are posturing, but the people in the know in America knows that the American military cannot fight two and a half wars. The reality is they can't even fight one war. You have got to ask yourself, what the fuck are they doing with that fleet that they are parking there off the coast of Israel? What is the plans there? I saw this morning an article in which Erdogan from Turkey is now shifting the gears. From staying neutral there, he has now openly taken the side of the Palestinians, and he's busy lining his military up. That is a huge problem for the West. But for us here in South Africa, we have to understand something very clearly. A Middle Eastern war is going to disable the Suez Canal. And that will mean that all freight traffic from the global south to Europe and America must come past the Cape. Now, I have mentioned it in my previous Skidmarks. The only real reason we are in BRICS is for the strategic value of the Cape Sea route, because as a country we are contributing fuck all to BRICS. We have nothing. Yes, we've got some farmers that have got products to export, but that's it. And then there's the minerals. But the minerals, you must understand, the XXX doesn't care about the political stability in a country. Because just go and look what's happening in the DRC. It's a war-torn country, but the minerals are flowing unhindered. Now here in South Africa we've got a major issue now. It is quite clear that the Freedom Front Plus has shafted the boere. And it doesn't matter how you try and spin it and how you try and maneuver it, that is what happened. But I've said it in previous Skidmarks. The liberal Afrikaners is in the pockets of XXX. So they're not for the people, they're there for XXX and for themselves. Now the black population is beginning to wake up, and they're seeing that the ANC is not playing for them. ANC is playing for XXX. But instead of taking a lesson from that, they make the same mistake that the boere made. The boere trusted the Freedom Front. Now the blacks are pinning their hope on the EFF. Julius Malema is solidly in Lord Renwick's pocket, and Malema himself has proclaimed himself to be a Zionist. Now, what does the black population expect is going to happen? The only thing that's going to fucking happen to them is that from the ANC oppressors executing XXX commands, fucking the population, it's going to move to the EFF oppression, executing XXX commands and fucking the population. Same bloody thing, just a different color. Just a different color. Go from yellow and green to red. That's all. But the circumstances will not change. Will not. But I have had discussions with black guys about this, and they don't want to see that. I have proclaimed it many times that the only real solution for the West, for the people of the West, the decent people of the West, is back to tribal level. That's where our salvation lies. Back to tribal level. Because if you look at it carefully in South Africa, the tribes does not deny one another the right of existence. And the tribes know that cooperation is a good thing for everyone. But we're sitting in South Africa with about 25 million tribeless Xhosa brigade. They have got no historical, cultural bonds. Many of them don't even know who their fathers is. They don't have any tribes. The same thing is clear in the ANC. The ANC represents no tribe. The EFF represents no tribe. And you have to be worried about that. We have now seen that with the Freedom Front Plus, same shit. They do not represent a tribe. They're only there for voters, for numbers. They don't have a tribe. They don't. They make as if they are representing the boere tribe. But they're not. And we know it. So, the people that understand that the future lies with the tribes are in a difficult position, because in the current political setup there is basically one political party that actually represents a tribe, and that is Inkatha. And Inkatha makes no secret about it. Inkatha is not trying to draw other people from other tribes into their party. They are focused on their tribe. But the rest of them are what I'm calling tribal whores. They're all over the show with no tribal identity. And I was at a point, I had good feelings about ACDP, but I've seen some news snips yesterday that made me realize they're also not really representing any tribes. They're there for the votes, and they bargain on the religion side to bring them support. Now, in the end, those of us that are worried about our cultural future have a problem, because we don't have a party that we can vote for. And now I'm going to talk to the white people, the boere. You guys need to make a plan and get a political party on that voters roll that represents you. That's it. We have this fuck up here in South Africa between Afrikaners and boere, which is a severely divisional balls-up. And someone that I talk to a lot has suggested that maybe we must just simply apply our minds and settle that fucking story and take the position that the Afrikaner nation exists and contains a liberal and a conservative wing. That's it. And that's where we have to stop. So if you're an Afrikaans speaking guy, or an Afrikaner, or an English speaking Afrikaner, whatever, you're a white, think about that. Liberals, conservatives, and stick to that. And work out a plan. We know the conservative wing does not have political representation, and they'll have to sort that out. If they don't get that sorted out, we're running towards the abyss. The reality is that my personal opinion is that The only future for South Africa is in a total destruction of the Republic as an entity. And it must go back to tribal lands and let the tribes sort it out by federations or whatever and how they want to cooperate. That is the only future that we have. That's the reality of it. But the problem that we have to take note of is that there's a large portion of the population, white and black, that don't actually belong to a tribe. What's going to happen to them? What are they going to do if the Republic should go tribal? They've got a problem. But we, the ordinary people, will have to deal with that problem, because that tribalist cosmopolitan grouping, and they're white and black, they've got a lot of power, and they've got a lot of money, and they've got their fingers in everything in the country. The tribes need to work a way out how to deal with those people. And they are the people that will fight any move towards tribalism. Look what they did to Zuma. Look at that and think. So if there's any entity that's going to stand up and openly promote the tribal thing, they must understand they are going to get severe opposition, because Triple X fears the tribes like hell, because they know the tribes will emasculate them. So think about these things. And if you have contacts and connections in the black Twitter and black Facebook and black fuck knows what, point out to them that the ANC and the EFF are two sides of the same coin as far as the future of the people is concerned. And for us, I'm from the boere tribe. I'm part of the Afrikaner nation. And I have been fucked politically because I have no representation. No representation. And I'm too old to make a plan with that. It's up to the youngsters to do it. And I suggested in my previous Skidmark that maybe it's time to just take the HNP and do a regime change on the thing, and that old rusted little truck that the HNP is, trade the thing in on a new bakkie with a motor plan and everything, and go for the future. That is what I think is a good solution. But why? If I say the future is in the tribes, but then I say get into the political system. Simply this. We have to get representation in the political system so that we can oversee the collapse of that political system. That we have a voice at that table when that political system falls apart. Because it's useless to stand out in the street and bitch and eat a spoon on a pot. That counts for fuck all. You must be at that table. And the boere people must take serious note. You need a seat at that table. You have to be there so that you can oversee the collapse of the political structure. We, the boere, has been outmaneuvered in the birth of this political structure. We were snookered out of the game. Clearly, we were taken for a fucking ride. But, okay, that's the history. We're again getting to a point where changes are going to happen. Make sure we're at that table that we can oversee that collapse. Even if we can do nothing about the collapse, we can just at least, we will have some first-hand information there by sitting at that table, listening to these other guys screaming and bleating while everything falls apart. Because I saw this morning, there's a new gang calling themselves Newlands or something like that, that also wants a piece of South Africa. As I say in Afrikaans, net nog 'n bende. We've got enough benders. We've got enough gangs. We have got enough. We need some unity. And I think that a good start for the Afrikaners is to see us as a nation and understand that we're a liberal wing and a conservative wing. And leave it at that, because we're wasting energy on this fight. Who's a boer, who's an Afrikaner? We know in our hearts who we are. And if you want to distill it, it boils down to conservative and liberal. And that is where we have to focus on it. And forget there was other little fights about the different gangs and the different levels of conservatism and the different levels of liberalism and all that cock. Leave that. We can sort that out once the game is over. But we are playing in the second half, and we are speeding up to injury time. But we don't have a player on the field. We need a player on that field. That's the reality. And the clever people must work that out. There's now, you have most probably taken note about the little scuffle between me and Corneille Mulder of the Freedom Front. The reality is this. He is attacking me as if I'm a politician. I'm not a politician. I'm the guy that reports the facts. He must have his debates with the politicians that has the viewpoints that I have published. Not me. But this is unfortunately the reality of our times. I said this morning to a friend of mine, Mulder has got a moose problem with me because he cannot pick the phone up and phone my editor and tell me to shut up. Think about that. But I'm going to carry on with these things, and I'll keep you guys on top of as much information as I can. It's a hell of a job for me to drive the channel, and it takes a moor of a lot of time. And obviously, yes, I need some financial support. I cannot carry on. I've been financing all of this by myself, but I'm reaching a point where it's now becoming a little bit difficult now. And I have got options in the description of the video of how you can support the channel. And I want to say again, thank you very much to everybody that is contributing. I seriously, seriously appreciate it. But let's see what the future holds. My parting words in this one is, the future lies with the tribes. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. The sharing is very important. And the subscribe. It's only with the subscriptions that we can make an impact on the algorithms. Have a great day.